Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So, I'm sure it's pretty well known here on YouTube, or if you didn't know, that my favorite game of all time is Eco, originating back on the PS2, and as you can see here, I even have a little shrine shelf set up to Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Eco, no other game has ever really matched my first time playing through that game. The experience I had with Eco, playing through that game from start to finish on the PS2 on launch day, mind you. I was one of the few people that picked that up day one because of an article that I read in an official PlayStation magazine. And of course the demo that I played about 20 times before the game released. I fell in love with the game. And since then, no game has really matched what I felt for Eco the first time playing through. And then Shadow of the Colossus came along about 4 years later in 2005. Eco is 2001, mind you, 15 years ago. And I love Shadow of the Colossus. I don't feel like it toppled my love for Eco, but if I made like a top 20 games list, Shadow of the Colossus would probably be on that list without a doubt. And all these years I've been waiting for that one game to come along that would finally potentially dethrone my fascination with the world of Eco and the feelings that that game brought to me. And the only game, I've tried over the years, I thought, maybe Skyrim would do it, maybe, Uncharted 4 would do it, I even thought possibly No Man's Sky. I know, that went south really fast, but I never really found that game. And I feel like the only game that honestly has a chance is The Last Guardian. And I figured a lot of you probably thought it would be kind of strange, or how it has been pretty strange, that I've been pretty much silent about The Last Guardian on YouTube over the past 8 years that I've been making videos. Now, there's a reason for that, and the reason being is I've learned not to hype myself up on games. I kind of... As crazy as this sounds, yes, I know that The Last Guardian just got delayed, but to tell you the truth, I don't care. I actually am kind of glad that The Last Guardian is delayed once again. Before we step into the present, let's just go back into the past to kind of set the scene for those of you that don't actually realize, how long The Last Guardian has been in development. They started developing this game back in 2007. It was formally announced at E3 2009, of which I quickly took the opportunity as soon as they released this art asset to make my own custom shirt for The Last Guardian. So I made this shirt like 6-7 years ago. That just shows you how much I was anticipating The Last Guardian at the time that I made a shirt for the game. And of course, got to stick with the occasion here. And it was pretty quiet for that. We didn't really get our next taste of a trailer for that, I think, until 2011, 2 years later. And that's when things started to go downhill for The Last Guardian. After that initial gameplay trailer, we really didn't see much at all from the game anymore. Sony was pretty quiet about it. They were, jumping past the questions that journalists would throw at them and gaming sites. Fumito Ueda was, going through a sort of crisis at the time with Sony. He and Team Eco departed Sony. And that really scared a lot of us Team Eco fans because, that was the breakup, essentially, the end of my favorite developer, obviously, for my favorite game of all time. And it was really scary. And for a few years, actually, we were told that the game was still in development, but we weren't really 100% on that because we weren't seeing the game. We weren't getting updates. And I'm sure this was intentional because the game was shifting from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 around 2012 is when they decided, even against Ueda's own, he felt that the game should have remained on the PlayStation 3 because he felt by that time the game was nearing the end of development and his vision had been realized, but visually it wasn't up to par. And Sony was really pushing for the game to be on PS4, understandably, because they realized how many people wanted to play it, and to them it could have been a console system seller for the PS4. So they decided to shift development, and as a result, they had to pull in a lot of outsourcing, like Santa Monica Studios from Sony. They even brought in Mark Cerny, the lead architect behind the PlayStation 4, to help code this game for the PlayStation 4, because Team Eco couldn't handle it. They're a small development studio, so they were struggling with the development of The Last Guardian. So essentially, Team Eco, they are still working on this. Some team members, like the lead programmer, I believe, Ueda, of course, the founder, the creative vision behind The Last Guardian, he is still working on it under contract. But once The Last Guardian is done, that's it. I mean, Team Eco is basically, they are done, but now they are done. Once The Last Guardian is out, and then they're going to start, what they see for the foreseeable future with Gen Studios. Gen Studios being their new development studio. And to me, I think this marks the end of large console releases for Ueda and his team, because they actually set out originally to make The Last Guardian faster, because Ueda felt that Ico and Shadow of the Colossus took too long to develop, that the development cycle was too long, ironically, right, of course. So I think this has probably stressed them out way too much, and from now on I feel like all we're going to see from them are small indie games that are probably very short in length, pretty simplistic, very much art. I hate to use the term, but like that artsy kind of game that we're so used to these days. And that brings me to another point that has been brought up over the years, that The Last Guardian taking so long to come out will dampen its effect that it would have had, say, if it had released back in the original targeted release date of, I think it was 2011, within the first year of release of the PlayStation 3. And I think it's a fair point, because over the years, if The Last Guardian had released at that time, you know, there was a lot of the samey kind of games. There were shooters, there were racing games, there were, you know, the same kind of stuff. And Last Guardian would have filled that void of kind of that emotional game, that previously the only games that had really done that for people were titles like Ico, Shadow of the Colossus. Flower may have been out at the time, I believe, but, you know, games like that are emotionally driven stories, very much a calm, relaxing atmosphere, and Last Guardian would have filled that gap, and it would have been a huge, huge deal at the time. But over the years, we've had a lot of other games that have released. For example, Journey, you know, a game like that would fill that niche. Games like Gone Home, you know, it was just these really emotionally driven stories and peaceful, relaxing games. And I feel like The Last Guardian is still going to be a fantastic game. Do not get me wrong. I am not down talking this game. I still have high hopes that this will be the game to dethrone Ico as my favorite game of all time. But I have my concerns that the public as a whole will not appreciate it as much as they would have had it released, you know, the 8 years ago. Will this game still sell like hotcakes? You better believe it. The hype is so high that a lot of people are going to buy this game, people that, you know, had no interest in Shadow of the Colossus and Ico. And I actually highly recommend, someone actually asked me at a convention I was at, you know, should they play Ico and Shadow of the Colossus before playing Last Guardian? And I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, you know what? No. I think you should actually go into The Last Guardian. If you've never played Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, go into The Last Guardian completely blind. Don't familiarize yourself with the previous titles, because then you will just be comparing The Last Guardian constantly to the atmosphere and the world setting in Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. And I feel like your experience may be heightened if you go into it not knowing what to expect, if you've never played one of their titles before. And that also brings me to another point that I wanted to discuss. It's that hype is killing the game industry, and I wanted to do an entirely different video on this, but sort of in a nutshell, I've been avoiding anything about The Last Guardian. Basically, all I know about The Last Guardian is the initial reveal trailer from 2009, which told us nothing, really, just the title and like a quick little teaser. And then the last two trailers that they put out. The original one where, you know, he's jumping, the boy's jumping off the bridge and grabbing the tail. And no, that was the second one. The first one where he's like throwing the barrel and avoiding the enemies. And then the second one, where they introduced a huge spoiler, and I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but there was a huge spoiler in the last trailer for The Last Guardian from last year's E3. Something that I really wish I did not see, because that's really going to dampen my experience with the game, because it was a pretty big spoiler. And it was really hard to avoid, so even if I avoided watching the trailer, video game news sites everywhere were like posting articles like, boom, spoiler, front page, huge picture, headline, and I'm like, how the heck am I even supposed to read about other gaming news when this is so hard to avoid? You go on Facebook, people have like links to it there, and I'm just like, people are telling me about it. I'm like, man, the video game industry has really changed. I mean, it's really hard to play a game these days without being completely spoiled and having the game ruined for you. And I mean, whatever happened to the days of just going into a game not knowing what to expect? It's so hard to do these days. Anyway, that's a topic for another video. But, you know, when E3 passed, there was a playable demo and people played it. It was real. There were articles written about it. There was like 30-minute gameplay videos of it, I believe. I mean, there was stuff out there for The Last Guardian. And I avoided it all because I don't want to know. I want to go in completely blind. And you know what? After waiting for this game for almost 8 years, you know, what's another month and a few weeks? I mean, I'm actually glad that it's delayed once again. For those of you that didn't know, it was supposed to come out October 22nd. It is now delayed until December 6th in the US. And that tells me that not only does Sony have the utmost confidence I mean, this would probably never happen with most other development studios. Sony allowing them to develop this game for so long, that just tells me that they know this game is going to be something special. It's going to be more than just your average adventure game. They know. And the fact that they're allowing, after this whole build-up to the release date at E3, that they would delay it again, that tells me that they know this game is damn good, and it does not deserve to release with any bugs, any problems, and I'm glad that they're discovering these bugs and they're polishing this game to the best it can be, because that tells me that they have pride in this product and they're not rushing it out there just to meet a promise that they made. I would rather have that promise be broken, even though it wasn't a promise, but still, people, we saw it as a promise because that was the first time The Last Guardian had a release date. But that just tells me that this game is going to be the best it can be, and if it's not perfect, then so be it. At least I know that they did their best and they put out a game that for them was, they were living and breathing this game for almost a decade. And, you know, going into it knowing that a team, a small development team for the most part of Team Ico, well, put their heart and soul into this game, and I can't wait for this freaking game. I have to tell you, I'm very excited, but I'm patient. I've been patient all these years, and I can wait. And when that game comes out December 6th, I hope that it's going to be my favorite game of all time. I'm okay if it's not, because I have the memories of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and it's almost here. It's almost here, guys. I haven't spoken about The Last Guardian on the channel for probably like over 5 years, and I just wanted to talk about it. I just had to get this off my chest, because I'm sure people have been wondering, what are my thoughts on The Last Guardian? Well, there you guys go. All right, so thanks very much for watching. I don't want to drag this on too long. I'll see you guys in another video.